like to call to order the Board of Selectmen's meeting of Tuesday, March 26th, 2024 at 7 PM. All right, so we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The only chairman announcement I have is the fun time of year. We're rapidly approaching our annual town meeting, so. With that, is anybody in the audience here for anything? Other than the people that are supposed to be here? Seeing as none, so the first item is a public hearing for the Grill on Main Street yearly entertainment license. Need a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Come on up. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I forgot that part, Tim. You can kick me.
That's fine.
No, you can kick me if I skip.
Good evening.
Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Want to give us a quick little rundown of what you're thinking here?
This is just for like karaoke and maybe somebody with like an acoustic guitar coming to play. The karaoke is literally just a speaker with 2 microphones, so.
So the acoustic guitar doesn't require a license, correct? Because it's not amplified?
Well, it's live music.
Okay, no, I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
live. Which they do have that checked off on their application as
Okay.
well.
How often are you going to do this?
The karaoke once a month and sporadically for the live.
Yeah, reason, so I'm going to ask you that, and I'm going to ask you hours, and the reason I'm asking you that is if you get complaints, then our friends downstairs know how to manage it, right?
Yeah.
So if we have no guidelines, they don't know
Well, we
what
only
they're
have our
dealing
liquor
with.
license till 12, so, till 12. Like on a Friday night, we start it late, because we can't do it during like dinner hours, so like roughly like 9 to 12.
And you're thinking karaoke once a month,
Yeah,
and acoustic guitar,
maybe once a month.
okay.
Yeah, this isn't like an every,
I'm just trying to help Lisa so she understands what it is that you're looking for, because when she makes up the license, it's going to
I
reflect
have
what
to
you're,
put the
what you're,
conditions
what
on
you're
it.
asking for, so.
yeah.
Anybody have any questions for her?
If you're making notes, I don't know if we want to commit to 9 to 12. But I think if we allow it, we allow it. It might be fun to do karaoke at Sunday at 3 in the afternoon.
No Sundays. Entertainment
Bad example.
licenses Sunday.
Saturday, and
We're starting at 8,
Good to know, I didn't know
so
that.
to speak.
Monday through Saturday.
Yeah, well, it's good that it came
No,
up.
I
Yeah.
agree. Sometimes like if you have an event or something like that, yeah.
So rather than tie it into just a
So,
little time
the
frame.
little scenario that I explained to you when you came in the office, it's spring or fall and your windows are open and the neighbors complain. So if it's at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, how are you going to manage that complaint? You going to stop
We don't open up the windows, we have central air in there.
in the event that it happens?
And
How would you manage the complaint? Would you, because 11 or 12 o'clock at night, right, somebody's trying to sleep and you have amplified karaoke and you had a few too many wobbly pops, it could get
Right.
pretty aggressive, right? So I'm just asking you. So it's the best time to ask instead of after you
Yeah,
have
no,
a
that's all
problem.
right.
That's why I'm asking.
I guess we could shut it down earlier if that was the case, if we did get a complaint,
Yeah,
but
okay.
You've had music
In
in
the
that
years
building
past.
before.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I believe it was you when you took it over. We had certain restrictions in the parking lot that we asked you to meet, and the relationship, as near as I can tell, with the neighbors has been very, very good.
yes.
So I understand your concerns.
Well, I just want to make sure that we know how she's going to manage
Yeah.
it, that's all.
I would,
Yeah.
go ahead. I just, maybe till 11, I wouldn't say midnight, because that's when their liquor license, they have to
Shuts down.
stop. Yeah,
Yeah.
at midnight, so maybe with the karaoke, 11 might be acceptable instead of midnight.
Maybe like 11:30, like, and then like the last call, so everybody's out by 12.
That's up to them. I'm just, midnight's a little late.
Fine with the 11:30.
Yeah, I am too. I think that's fine. A lot of this, I think, would be contingent upon a review after a certain amount of days or months, with the ability to scale things back if we need to, but. in
Yeah,
my-
be in March, do a 6-month review, because then you come in, or 3 months, whatever. You get into the summertime, that's when it's going to be the best time for her to have her business, right? So
Yeah.
I don't anticipate any problems. I'm just asking the questions so we know how we're going to manage them if they come about.
Should arise, right?
That's all. You have anything on that, Max?
I got no problems with it. I think you asked the important questions about knowing what time
Yeah.
it's going to start or end, and
Yeah.
working out those kind of kinks.
Your workman's comp, well, even your liability expires at midnight on Monday, so you'll be sending over a new one to Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
send me one.
Anybody else have anything? Anything that we missed, Lisa, that we should be
No,
considering?
that was
No.
pretty much it. So I would just, again, need the times that you guys want to set.
Well,
for the
we'll have
license.
to- we'll have
Should make
to
the-
close our public
Yep.
hearing and then make a decision.
Yep.
Just check with your Zoom people to see if they have anything.
Nick is from, that is one of the engineers or something.
Stormwater?
Stormwater, and that's Brandon. That's all right, we're not ready for you yet, we're just trying to figure out who was on screen.
Yep, no problem.
Brandon put his picture up there, so it confused all of us, and I was trying to get past it.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded, any further discussion? Seeing as none, we ready for a decision, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so it's,
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the yearly entertainment license with the opportunity to revisit things in 6 months with a condition that the amplified music be turned off at 11:30 PM.
okay, so and I'm just asking you if you want to add it in there. She said that it was going to be a couple times a month. Do we want to set it to once a week or something like, so then she has 4 times a month to run her? Does that make sense to you? Or-
Yeah, it definitely.
We're not,
would be
we're not
once
part,
a week, but I appreciate
we've already
that,
closed the
yeah.
hearing, but I'm just trying to make sure that we have the guidelines in
Yeah.
there. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, sensible. I think so.
might be sensible, but I also think encroaching in your business and what might work is probably not the step this board should take, at least initially. So I'd keep my motion as is.
So it would run every day of the week?
I don't think she's going to do it every day of the week, but if it's not a problem on Saturday, I don't see why it'd be a problem on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yep, and we can always revisit if we get in a complaint. So the only day that you couldn't do it is Sunday, correct? Okay.
All of that is contingent upon the continued dialogue with us and
Right.
if need be the neighbors.
Yeah,
But
Perfect, thank you.
okay, motion's been made,
I'll second that.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lisa will do her handiwork, and she'll be in touch with you.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll get it sent to you, okay?
Okay, perfect, and we'll get those over to you too. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Okay, the second thing we have is the Whitensville Fishing Game Club change of officers. This is just part of our annual process, Lisa?
Yes, it is.
Anybody have any questions or comments on that?
cut and dry.
Nobody has anything, that's a motion.
Make a motion that we acknowledge and accept the change of officers for the Whiteville Fishing and Game Club Incorporated.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next thing on the agenda is Blackstone Valley Beagle Club, change of offices, same scenario, annual event. This wasn't done last year. They did catch up this year and got it done, and to their benefit, just in time, because they did receive the attention of the ABC, and it would have affected their license if they didn't get it into us. So they made it under the wire and got it done.
So I'll make a motion to acknowledge and accept the change of officers for the Blackstone Valley Beagle Club.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all in favor?
Aye.
The next discussion item, and hopefully the town administrator will help us on this one, discussion and vote on the public health officer position.
Mr. Chairman, there is a suggested job description in your packet that enhances the role of our public health nurse. Agnieszka is willing to take on some additional training and responsibility, primarily on the food inspection side of the house. We have been using a regional consortium for food inspections, and we have two people that have been, actually for all inspections, and we have two people that have been assigned to us. And we got very comfortable with Danielle. She was doing a wonderful job for us and really understands the field very well. She has left the regional consortium for a position elsewhere, and the consortium is having a great deal of difficulty filling her position. The other inspector is also a very capable individual, but doesn't have the time or the connection to the town of Douglas, and doesn't have the same ability to interact with the public in an enforcement situation that Danielle had. It's just a different skill set. Technically brilliant, and just struggles to make that connection to get some, because ultimately we're about compliance, not enforcement, and that's what we're trying to get. So Agnieszka, seeing this gap opening up, is willing to step into the gap, take the training, and remain presently at her current rate of pay and her current hours. But she's going to take on some additional training. She won't be able to do this enforcement all by herself for some time. She's got to complete the training and have a mentor sign off that she knows what she's up to. But since we are going to be giving her at some point the official authority to do these things, we thought we'd update the job description. It is my habit to bring all job descriptions to you because I believe that is a policy decision. So it is a draft for your review. I would say most of the new material is in a couple of bullet points, not the majority of it. That would be bullet point number 2. We have a health agent presently for bullet point number 3. We anticipate that at some point that individual may retire or leave service, because right now it's the chair of the Board of Health is our health agent for that purpose. So we're going to leave this in the job description so that if the employee were to step up and start doing it, it would already be in the job description. I'm trying to find if there's any other additions. No, there isn't. So it's really bullet point 2 and 3, with bullet point number 2 being the one that's operative right now.
So you talked about the regional inspectors. That was part of that grant program that we got,
Yes.
we entered into with Northbridge and stuff?
Yeah,
So will
quite a
we-
few towns.
Will we stay involved in that
Yes.
as well? Does anybody have any questions for Matt?
Same number of hours, same cost. New title. How did we pull that off?
So, you want to get into the hat and see how I put the rabbits in it? I'm not going to allow you to do that. You can slow the film down and see what you can see. No, in all honesty,
Did you just question yourself on that very same thing, Tim?
no, I think I fairly represent the employee when I say that in the past, this department has turned back at the end of the budget year because not all the hours are used. And I think the feeling is this budget, but we still budget the same number of hours every year, quote unquote, in case, because this position's hours are highly dependent on the prevalence of certain communicable diseases and the need for that person to step up and fill those hours. So we don't wait for a fall town meeting to allocate those funds. We have it in the budget so that if she needs to put in the hours, she can. This, let's face it, how many restaurants, how many food establishments do we have in Douglas, right? It's not that many. So I think that's the other part of this, is that there is a limited universe here, a limited number of inspections, and the hours would cover, even if there are multiple actions and responses required of a food establishment as they come into compliance, there would still be enough hours to cover.
Any questions?
No, that was,
You, Russ?
No, no, seems good.
Entertain a motion on approving this position, or redefining the position, I guess?
I'll make a motion to accept the health officer's position, job description as posted in our packet for future position, I guess,
Well, yeah.
if that's,
So this is an existing employee,
okay.
Yeah.
and who has an existing job description. We're adding to the job description.
Adding to the job description, okay. So for the purpose of adding to the job description of the existing employee.
Second.
Max, you got to repeat all that. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? I had to throw it in.
Sorry.
Seeing as none, all in favor?
aye.
Matt, are you going to speak on this next one, the BBT, or
Yeah.
the review town meeting warrant articles?
So if it's all right with the board, I'd like to brief the board on this item,
Yep.
5A, then go to the FinCom meeting, and staff will cover these other items and rejoin you at item 6.
Yep, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that while Paul and Courtney were in the room.
Yeah.
It's a
I've shared with the superintendent and business manager a copy of this
Yep.
same thing. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, this
Yep.
is a fairly brief email from the superintendent of BVT.
Packet of 3 pages.
Oh,
They're just not stapled together.
I'm saving money on staples, guys.
you need a new assistant. Here's a page here that I took off the first one.
Do we get colored tabs on?
Hey, you got 3?
I got 3.
Hey, we're all set.
Are we good?
Yeah, got it. All right.
Begging the leave of the board, I'm going to read this brief email into the record because I think it's important that folks understand that a process worked out here where a number of town managers and administrators had some concerns about some of the proposals that BVT had made. We began to compare notes and come up with an approach to the conversation with BVT that resulted in the following. This email is addressed to the former chair of this board, to the town administrator, and to the chairman of the finance committee. Mr. Chairman, I did tell the doctor to
No,
update his
I've
record.
seen that. Yeah.
Following last night's public hearing and formal vote by the district school committee, we share this information. The standard FY25 town meeting operational budget assessment request for BVT is provided within the attached. Kindly note that the debt payment represents the final installment of the 2005 expansion renovation project approved unanimously by all member communities. Given the benefit of recent feedback from several district-wide finance committees, your vocational technical system initiated several modifications to its originally proposed special warrant articles for your community. More specifically, on March 14th, 2024, the District School Committee, that's BVT, rescinded its previous vote to request a new stabilization account. It was apparent that this savings measure will require additional study prior to any formal advancement during town meetings. Thus, the stabilization warrant article should be removed from your warrant or simply passed over should it be brought up. Secondly, we heard a clear preference to amend the roof repair HVAC roof units bond to be contingent upon a Massachusetts School Building Authority grant award, which would substantially reduce borrowing exposure and expense. Thus, the district school committee, working collaboratively with its treasurer and bond counsel, voted to amend its initial bond request. The new wording is provided within the attached, and it was designed to ensure the district complies with strict bond action wording and protects and maximizes MSBA eligibility. Lastly, should your community necessitate a debt exclusion to move forward, potential ballot wording is also provided. Thank you for your assistance in this endeavor. To his credit, the doctor speaks and writes the same way. That cadence, it's a lively cadence. So what you have here is your special warrant language request. I think would recommend to the board that this be the only warrant article put on other than the budget. So remember, you have two. You'll have the actual outlay of monies. That's one budget article. That's it, one article on the warrant. This is the second. The third, which would have been the stabilization, should be taken out entirely. And this one pager is the suggested language in the warrant and a suggested motion. It's all here. And I think this represents a very important improvement to this process. There were a number of other communities in the area that were already going out to do similar roof projects. And it was their strong feeling that unless and until MSBA gives you some sense that your project has legs and is going to get funding, why would you even go to the voters and ask them for money? And so that really came through very strongly in Northbridge. I think was what precipitated this action. So hopefully we can get to a point, nobody's really opposed to this school getting the roof if it needs it. It was just that we wanted to make sure that the state had skin in the game before we asked taxpayers for any money. Okay?
That's good.
That's all I got there.
And they time that where that is rolling off.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Anybody have any questions for Matt? Or we can send him off to the next room, he'll come back.
I can come back because you're not going to close the warrant, but
No.
Yeah.
I think that's our recommendation,
Yeah.
is that this is the only thing that goes in. All right, thanks.
Thanks. Next thing on our agenda is the school department funding for a district-wide facility study. You guys want to come up? Everybody remembers we briefly talked about this before, so they're just clarifying what they're putting on the article.
Courtney has some stuff to hand out. Thank you for having us back.
Yep.
And entertaining the conversation.
Just send it that way, 'cause-
As we said previously, we're looking to see if we can get a warrant article to do a study to help guide the town, the school, capital improvement in creating a 10-year plan as to what the school department needs, what our buildings need, and creating a plan so that we know what's needed. Courtney's done some research and just wants to share some information with you as to what this would look like and some additional information, so I'll turn it over to you.
You talk to the air?
You're welcome.
Oh, jeez. So yes, I did have the opportunity, and actually a number of school districts are actually having this done, sometimes combined with towns, sometimes just for their schools. So things came through on my listserv, so it made it easy. I said, oh my God, I've got some great examples of what the end product is and the RFP and things of that nature, some more information from MSBA. So I just put together just a bullet point thing that we can just go through and then go through this. So if the warrant article requested by the school district for a school building assessment, sorry, I My allergies are really kicking up. Is approved by the Board of Selectmen and Town Meeting, and the school district would issue an RFP, request for proposals, for written proposals from qualified consultants to provide a facilities condition assessment to assist in developing a 10-year capital plan that will include the timing and cost of future component maintenance and replacements. And I do have a good example of one of those reports. This scope of services would be completed by qualified assessment team to be comprised of architectural and engineering professionals, credentialed staff with at least 5 years in the business of providing facility condition assessments. These professionals will be responsible for assembling a comprehensive team of supporting subcontractors as needed to assess various components who possess the licenses and certifications where applicable. You know, for instance, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, structural engineers, things of that nature. The principal in charge will be LEED certified, and that's Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And we did get LEED certification for the elementary school. That's through the MSBA. The MSBA, Mass School Building Authority, they do set certain criteria that you need to meet with regard to school projects, you know, with regard to reimbursement, and I'll say a little bit more about that as we get towards the end. The following building components would be the focus of the assessment: mechanical, meaning heating, ventilation, and air conditioning; plumbing; electrical; service, distribution, lighting, and emergency generation systems; fire protection systems; health, life safety, egress, and emergency lighting; substructure, that's the structural aspect; the building envelope systems, meaning roof, walls, windows, and doors; accessibility requirements, and also the vertical lifts, analysis of our existing systems. The following priority categories are examples, they would list it by priority, kind of like we do with capital planning. The priority first would be critical, next one would be necessary, not yet critical, the third one would be recommended, and the fourth one would be does not meet current code, may be grandfathered in, because that's an important thing to look at as well. And then I just did add a little bit of information, and I did provide a backup document as well. MSBA, again, the Mass School Building Authority, issued a letter in June 2023 regarding the MSBA Green Schools Program policies in response to upcoming changes to the building code and indoor air quality that may affect the MSBA funding/reimbursement program requirements. So it stated in the letter beginning July 1st of 2023, the state will allow 3 levels of optional energy codes that can be adopted by communities in Massachusetts. In other words, I'm thinking that if you don't want any reimbursement, you don't want to go for that, you can maybe do what you want, but certainly if you do, but not only, I say that in jest though, because we're all interested in doing what will be environmentally and energy efficient anyway, but, and also, lastly, and I think, you know, very important as well, is that the facilities condition assessment, prioritization, and cost reports will additionally be instrumental in providing documentation for an analysis of what may be eligible for MSBA reimbursement projects. In other words, if we did an SOI, which is a statement of interest with a MSBA for, say, an accelerated repair program, we would have some really good backup in order to submit with our SOI. And just so you know, a statement of interest is done collaboratively. It must be done collaboratively between superintendent of schools and the town, because they know that everybody needs to work together to get the school projects done. They're very large school projects. So I just wanted to, and I did get this information again, because I happened to come across a really good RFP, and also a good, and I can actually pass it around if you'd like to see it, what one of the reports looks like. And they do actually have all the costing out, and they do it over a 10-year period, and they do this every day, all day long. They have that expertise, so they know the cost of everything because they just do it every day, all day long. And so they, of course, include an inflation factor and things of that nature right throughout those 10 years. Not saying those figures would be precise, but enough to do some good comprehensive planning for everybody. And not only just for the school department as well. And I said this at the school committee, it's not really just about us either, because all departments are important. All buildings in town are important. We're one department of the town. We're all part of a town. So I want to make sure that we're clear, even though we're looking for this. And again, we did say we would love it if we do it for town buildings. That's entirely out of our jurisdiction. We totally understand that. But we just want to make it clear that we understand we're part of a town. So
Yep.
even though we ended up asking for it for the school department, we understand there are other needs as well.
Yep.
So, and that's all I have for this evening, just for some additional information.
Anybody like to see the example report that Courtney has?
Yeah, I can pass around, yep.
Does any-
Now, I did email them to see if they'd mind if I make copies, and I just wasn't sure about that. So the person, the business manager in that district is away and had no access to her email for just today. So I said, I'll bring it anyway, and then I think I'd pass it around.
Yeah.
So just as an example. And again, we don't have to use everything in the RFP, the examples. I got a
No,
few good
just give
examples.
them an outline.
Right, and we can certainly request things that if Douglas needs something a little bit more or differently, absolutely, we could incorporate that as what we feel that we needed.
While that's going around, does anybody have any questions for Courtney or Paul?
What is the cost? Excuse me, what is the cost?
Well, we put in the warrant article up to 200,000, so I did get through emails across the state from anybody that did happen to respond. There was one that was done that was I think it was 3 elementary schools, and I believe a town building, it was 168,000. So that's why it just wasn't short, and that means 4 buildings, kind of like our 4 school buildings. So I thought that was a fairly good gauge, and that's why we said up to 200, so that certainly if it comes in lower, I mean, we would not even have access to the rest of those monies that would go back to the town. So,
And we realize that it's a big ask for everyone. Up to $200,000 is a lot of money for a feasibility study. But putting that money up front might save us money in the long term as we're looking for putting together a plan for how we upkeep the buildings and fix and replace everything. But we do realize, as Courtney said, we are one department in the town. It is a lot of money up front, but looking to spend some money up front to be able to save some in the long term.
just trying to do the right things for the right reasons, from our perspective, and thinking more holistically for townwide planning as well,
So just quickly thumbing through this, looks like they're actually like assessing the parking lots and the sidewalks and everything.
Yeah, it depends, right, and they're all written differently.
Yep.
Yeah, that was just an example, yeah. Yeah. Because again, our, like we had said, the primary school is 45 years old, the high school over 20, and there's been some costly things that have been going, and we're starting to feel like we need to do this, so, and I can't predict when something's going to break, so.
Is timing critical for you for this? Timing, to
Well-
launch the idea?
We feel it is,
Yeah.
only because, like I just said, with regard to primary school being 45 years old, in the high school, the things that we're starting to see at the high school as well, even though it's just over 20 years old. And we had our oil tank inspected as well, and it cost $44, which we paid for, in repairs and things. I mean, things just, and I hate to say it, things not built like they used to be. Like I was telling Paul.
No, look at this building.
Paul laughs at me.
104 years old, it's still here.
Yeah, exactly. Paul laughs
What'd
at
I-
me. but-
what'd I do?
Well, when we were walking down the hall, I said, Paul, I was touching the sign in the hallway, that beautiful sign. And I have to touch everything and knock on it to feel the material. It's like, wow, how dense the wood is or whatever. And I said, Paul, look at how they did things back then. I
The
mean,
reason why
just
I ask you about
wonderful.
that, about the timing, just having time to ask all the questions you need to ask so you can go confidently forward. I mean, myself as an individual, right? So here we are on we talked about it once briefly at the last meeting, and then now we're deciding whether or not it goes on the warrant. So that's the only reason I asked.
Oh, no, we understand
Timing,
that.
how
understand.
critical
Yep.
it is.
Obviously, the quicker
I don't know if you had any conversations with the town administrator to encompass some of the buildings that we have, because you touched on a town-wide versus the district-wide.
We've had conversations.
I did put that in the original email asking the question. I did say, for our ability, but certainly said that because it would be up to you guys, if you wanted to change that language and incorporate, but that's outside of our, we
Obviously,
didn't
the
want to.
quicker you put a plan in place,
Yeah.
and the earlier you start implementing it, the better for a whole host of
Right.
reasons,
Yeah.
not only for preventative, but also financial as well, too. So,
In place.
Oh, yeah, and timing in that way, but
Yeah, planning, prioritizing, all of that.
you can ask Matt.
And then again, the
I'm
assistance.
constantly saying poor planning is poor results, so that's why I ask about timing, right?
Yeah.
So, just to put a little thought
Yeah.
into it.
And again, I know this, I don't know, maybe it does apply to some things on the building side, I'm not sure, Matt, but especially with different things between communities and stuff, but we were just mentioning, I don't think you were in the room at the time, that particularly for MSBA too, if we do an SOI, statement of interest, which of course involves town side and school together, that having that backup documentation will substantially, I believe, make our case as well for funding reimbursement, whether it be the accelerated repair program or the regular school building program. So I actually had an example of a deliverable, and also I have a couple of, I have several examples of RFPs as well.
I'm listening, I'm just.
Just an example. Oh, no, we're done.
I'm multitasking, but.
No rush,
And
no
we're-
rush. at all.
and we're filling dead air time by talking, so.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, I just realized I'm looking down, and I didn't want you to think I was being.
No, it's just, yeah.
Unlike Matt, you're not going to
Yeah.
slow down the video to see what
Yeah.
happened.
And I use paper clips tonight.
So again, like we said,
Yeah.
that's done by experts in the field with multiple years' experience who come in and assess, large spaces. We have over 300,000 square feet of building space, close to 40 acres of fields. So having someone come in with that expertise and present the plan as you see there, laid out for not only the schools, the Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, finance, capital improvement of exactly what needs to be done, the cost with inflation built in, so you can plan out pretty well 10 years what needs to be done.
And particularly on the school side, the LEED certification is really key. And also, these people do it all the time for schools, so they understand the MSBA requirements, so they have that expertise as well while they're doing the assessments, as far as the end deliverable product.
So what I was looking at while I was going through that was, I'm looking at it differently because I do buildings, so I'm looking at it a little differently. So they're giving you the condition and what their observations are,
And the prioritization and the.
but no
estimated cost.
recommendation. Like, one particular thing that I seen, it was the aluminum frame windows that are is thermally broken as far as the weather seal and stuff like that. So there's not a recommendation whether, like in this building here, we're talking about the lobby windows on the other end, instead of replacing all the framework with it. The frame, actually, we had them inspected and they're in good shape, just the new glazing. So the price on that project, which the numbers are all old now, went from 110 down to 30, right? So that's what I was looking for through there, to see if, not only did they assess it, did they give you a recommendation as to how you could address the problem? So I don't know if they normally do that, or if that's part of their services. It might be something to consider, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and RFPs can be written different ways depending on what you, there are certain things that must be in them as far as value, you have to have the evaluation criteria and the certain categories that you must judge them by, but it really is up to, it's just that happened to be a pretty good, from the ones that I saw.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't make some changes but then everything that you ask for, of course, calls for more, but doesn't mean that if we get that building, so they say the windows are, they give some kind of a
Yeah.
gauge, doesn't mean that we have to do, depending, some
Oh, yeah,
things you can have
yeah,
some.
but that's not what I was saying. What I was looking for was like a
Flexibility.
recommendation. Say your car broke down on the side of the road, you don't
Yeah.
want Ross to come over and say, yep, your car's broke. Okay, good, now I gotta find somebody else to tell me how to fix it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's part of their service, if they can give you some recommendations, and something as simple as the windows that I pointed out.
Yeah.
A recommendation that if you have them reglazed, the frames are in good shape, that would be helpful for you.
I
That's
think having worked with enough engineers through the years, they're going to tell you
Yeah.
the Cadillac way to fix it.
Yeah.
And then it's up to us
to
to
us, we have
determine
the
whether or not we
flexibility.
want
Yeah.
to play with that a little bit.
I don't know.
Well,
if we use the word
that's my,
Cadillac. Don't use that word here.
No, but
the Civic version of-
Cadillac or Volkswagen, that's my exact.
Yeah, there you go.
They didn't give you a suggestion on how to
Yeah.
fix it, is what I read in. Okay. Right, they just said it's broke.
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
I wasn't criticizing their correction, their correction.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Is the fact that
Yeah.
they didn't give you a suggestion
Yeah.
and help you through it. And I just think that would be a value for you if you end up going
For all of
down
us,
this road,
yeah.
that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, for everybody.
yeah.
Because the value on how to fix it has a dollar. So as capital's planning, as everyone's planning, to know what the dollar amount helps us all out in the planning.
Yeah, because I didn't go that far through it. Does it actually identify a value to this stuff?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And it's right through the 10 years, and it does include an inflation
Okay.
factor. Yep. Which was, that was a big key thing with me. Now, I looked
Yep.
at some others, and they didn't do that. I'm saying, well, what good is this? You have to have some, because what's the first thing everybody's going to ask us? Cost. Because you can't do anything with anything unless you know, is it $100 or $10,000?
How we write
You know,
what we
but yeah.
want determines what the
Yeah.
report looks like. We don't know how this school district wrote what they were looking for.
Yep.
Well, I do, no, I do
Oh,
have
you
their
do? Okay,
RFP.
sorry,
Oh, I
okay.
do have their RFP, yeah.
Yep.
I
just
stand
got them
corrected
today,
again
though.
twice.
I didn't, but I didn't. But I did just, we've had a lot of meetings today, so we haven't had a
Right.
chance. I just got this yesterday, so, and just typed this up today, and, yeah. So we didn't have a chance to actually go through it. We didn't go through every single page. I knew I had a fairly good example, and just wanted to bring it with me, that's all.
But I think the board can see
Yeah.
it's a comprehensive report. And again, we understand, like you said,
Yeah.
we're one department of the town. At some point, it might make sense to do a full town-wide study. Timing, the sooner we get started, the sooner we can put a plan in place, the sooner things can get fixed. But we just wanted to let everyone know, we think this is the right direction, so we have a plan in place. Everyone knows what it is. It's laid out for you. Love to see it started this year. We understand there's only a certain part of money available. So if it needs to get pushed out a year, we understand too. But you have to start.
Yep.
You have to start
Oh, yeah, no, it's starting the
Yeah.
process, that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
we have to start the process, so.
Does anybody have
Yeah.
any questions for Paula Courtney?
Just, and I don't even know if it's come to this far in its discussion, do you know how long it would take for these assessments to, for, I think, 4 buildings up there?
Oh, you know what, it's been a while. I mean, I've, throughout my 30-year career, they've been done periodically, but I have not been involved with one for a while, so I'm trying to remember back, because even for school projects, I'm going to just garner a guess of 4 to 6 months is going to be my, just don't hold me to it.
That was
Yeah.
6
Yeah. Yeah,
Ross,
if I remember.
you just had a miracle happen because she never guesses. So the fact that you got her to guess and make a statement, you just worked a miracle today.
And the recorded, it'll be in the meeting
And on the
minutes and
recording
everything.
in the minutes, so.
Play the lottery.
You made a miracle happen today. Play the lottery, I think Mega Millions is still
Paul,
available.
don't get too excited. That was a number associated with time, not dollars.
It was still a
Yeah,
guess.
that's true.
It was still a
That
guess.
is true.
That is true.
But that is a good point.
Can I have the win tonight
Won't
at
happen with
7:30?
Get the Powerball ticket.
All right, so if
Okay.
nobody else has any questions
Thank you.
for these two, we can let them get home to their lives.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thanks
Okay,
for
thank you
coming
very
in.
much.
Appreciate it.
Yep. The next thing we have on is a citizens petition, general bylaw amendment, Article 8, Section 13, wetlands. Is anybody in the audience that would like to come up? Would you like to join us too, Matt? Please state your name for the record, for the minute taker, please.
Thank you. Lisa Mozinski, 60 Oak Street.
Matthew Benoit, Director of Community Development.
All righty. Would you like to give us an overview, please?
So this is basically the same as, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yep. I'm just in case we had a new
Yep.
watcher in the mix.
No, that's not a problem. So the main priority of this initiative is to change the current fine from $200 to $300 a day. It would be great per incident, but because right now the state has a cap of $300, but the bylaw, as it exists, only allows for $200 to be levied against the violator. So I thought, considering the experiences we've been having on Oak Street, it would be great if we were in line with other communities throughout the Commonwealth and were able to charge the maximum.
That was going to be my question for Mr. Benoit. That's the limit? 300 is the limit
Yes, 300 is the limit, that's right.
per incident per day?
Right. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to state that the Conservation Commission at their March 21st meeting voted to unanimously support the citizens petition to amend Article 8, Section 13 of the Douglas General Bylaw.
Does anybody have any questions for either one of our two attending?
Lisa, you had mentioned $300 per day per violation?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is not more than 300.
No, okay.
And I think it was shared with town council, so it might have to be amended a bit so that it says specifically 300 and per day. But we understand that the submission for the warrant has to be exactly as it was submitted as a citizen's petition, and so if needed, we'll make efforts to amend from the floor.
I don't think there would be an issue with that being not more than 300 a day. That would give the discretion to the commission, correct?
Right.
If something minor in nature, doesn't necessarily have to be 300. I'm looking for your correction if I'm wrong.
No, I'm not sure there'd be an instance where they'd want to do less than the 300 maximum.
We have Brandon Fanoff online. Do you have any comments for this, Brandon?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, we put my video on. Good evening. Yeah, so basically what Lisa just said, but also this article went to Jay Tallerman, town council, and he had 3 comments on it, which at this point are probably going to have to get amended, put on the floor at town meeting. Because the article cannot be amended once it's submitted. Now you gotta wait till town meeting. But yeah, one of them was that due to fairly recent case law, the fine has to be a number certain. So it can't be up to, it has to be a number. And this number right now is at $300. There was a couple, one of them was that he felt that there was a sentence in 2 paragraphs and one of them was redundant. And then the third one was that there was a paragraph regarding how the commission could compel the select board and town council to take legal action. Well, the Conservation Commission cannot compel the Board of Selectmen. That's the Board of Selectmen's discretion. So there was a letter, there was a word, the Select Board shall. That should be the Select Board may, as in it's your discretion. So those are the 3 changes. And Lisa came to me today. Gave me those comments. So what I did is I edited the article. I also changed some paragraphs around so that it would flow better. Otherwise no substantial change. Just moving things around so that it read easier and made more sense instead of jumping around to and then coming back to something similar. And I'm hoping that those things can be amended on the floor.
Will you be forwarding your recommended amendments so that way you can be prepared ahead of time?
Already did.
Yeah, and also one thing that I thought was important that Lisa suggested to me was, well, it's not just an instant, right? So not just something they did wrong, somebody did wrong on the site, like they filled a wetland over here and then they filled a wetland over there, and therefore there's 2 separate violations that you can fine $300 each for. But also that you were able to fine $300 a day for each condition of an order of conditions. So the permit, the conservation permit for each condition that is a non-conformance, you can fine for that as well. And when it comes to ticketing authority, there's a lot of trust that goes into these boards, and you hope that there aren't going to be people who would abuse it. But at the same time, this town and other towns occasionally get a what I like to call alpha dogs. Someone who's just not listening, people who have, $300 a day is a drop in the bucket for them, and it's really not going to deter them from doing anything. to be able to have multiple, be able to find, on multiple fronts, so that's not just $300 a day. You finally get to a point where they're listening to you. So I thought that was important to, try and bring forward.
Is this a practice used in other towns, or is this something you just came up with?
No, this is a practice that's used in other towns. In fact, the wording in this current article comes from the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions model bylaw, okay? And in it, what they do allow you to fine on multiple fronts for separate violations. But I wanted to make it clear that it could also be used for the violation of separate individual conditions of an order. That's a little different.
And the reason why I asked that is my initial thought is it could be considered an overreach, right? And that you're trying to go too far into it. So I'm just thinking of our audience as you're at town meeting. If you go too far down the road with it and get it too complicated, is it going to make it so it doesn't pass, right? So increasing the fine to 300 makes perfect sense. When you start getting into each and every, you could be really nitpicky on all the conditions, and then it could end up in tens of thousands of dollars, right? Depending on how many conditions you have on there. And anybody thinking about it, and that's where my head would go immediately when I listen to you, what my questions would be at town meeting if I was paying attention to what you were saying.
Fair enough.
I'm not saying it's not a good idea and not a bad idea, that's my initial reaction to it, is you just gotta be careful you don't go too far. Right? Just a thought. Anybody else have anything for Brandon?
No.
Anything you have for Lisa or Matt?
Matt.
I think the biggest thing that I got out of it is you have to be specific on the dollar amount. You
Yep.
can't say up to. It has to be 100, 200, 300, whatever it is.
Right.
And you can't go over 300. That's what the law restricts you to.
And the commission cannot compel the select board to take legal action.
No.
Right.
I don't even know why the wording have to be in there that they may, because that's always there. Right? This body always has that option whether or not it wants to pursue it.
Well, it's model language. They write that with a big umbrella in mind.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Just, I guess, one question since you're here, Lisa. Why is this a citizen's petition and not through the typical channels of developing a warrant?
Because I can't remember what year this bylaw is from, but it's been many years, and we're very far behind. And because of recent situations on Oak Street and other parts of town, I felt it was critical that we move as quickly as possible to change the amount of fine, because sometimes, to the chairman's point, that's the only thing people hear, or to Brandon's point, that's the only thing people hear. So,
Currently 200?
correct.
Yeah.
So I thought an initiative would spur that, and I would welcome a more thorough review of the conservation bylaws in the future.
The zoning is currently 300. We had put that at 300 as well a few years back. Not answering for Lisa, but I think timing is more of an issue, right? To try to go through the process, you're looking probably 6 months down the road where we needed something more immediate as a town. So this was the quickest way to get to that point.
Exactly.
But it'll be a challenge because it hasn't been passed out, to Selectman Bonan's point, it hasn't, haven't had a chance to talk about it with everybody.
This
And
wording,
Mr. Chairman, the proposed stormwater article also has it at $300 a day for violations of that article. So
You
this one would be in line.
You need to wait 2 more items. We're going to stick with C first. Not to be rude, but I don't want to jump around and confuse it.
So before this would make the warrant, the wording would have to be,
Nope,
Or-
it's going to, because of the way the citizens' petition was circulated, it has to stay as is.
Okay.
The amendment will have to be done on the floor at the town meeting.
oh, on for, okay.
On the floor, and then it
Okay.
has to be, after the amendment's done, it has to be in writing to the moderator.
Okay.
Nobody else has anything for these two? We can,
I think this is a good step.
yeah. All righty, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If I stay?
Yeah, you're going to stay, you're not going anywhere. So the next, Matt, you have F and you have G. So we'll go to F, which is North Street Project additional match.
No, I do not have that. That's Bob Manerick.
Oh, Monerick, well, no, I put the things backwards. Do you have the land transfer?
Yes.
Sit back down, Bob. D, transfer of land ownership, map parcel 118-2, Caswell Court.
Yep. So
Sorry, Bob.
this land, Mr. Chairman, was taken by tax title by the Select Board kind of recently, but the Open Space Committee is citing our master plan for the acquisition of this land for conservation purposes to
The
bring.
1998 master plan?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yep. And this parcel was identified as a critical habitat, so they'd like to transfer this into Conservation Commission hands for, so it's protected in perpetuity. The parcel itself is known as Caswell Caves. I guess there's some pretty neat geological formations on this property, but there's no access to it right now.
Just going to ask you, that's landlocked, correct?
It is. It's very landlocked, but there is a potential project coming in for Caswell Court
Yeah.
where
Go up by St. Dennis.
there would need to be a wetlands crossing constructed in order to get to it, but it's something that the planning board, or whoever the governing authority is of that potential filing, could ask for and require as part of their application. And I think that's definitely on our minds once that application comes forward.
Any questions, Tim?
Nope,
Mac?
good marketing though, makes me want to walk up there.
Right?
Right?
Well, once the water crossing's in.
Yeah.
Ross, you have anything?
I'll say.
Next thing we have is E, which is the revised stormwater bylaw.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is printed in the warrant as a revised stormwater bylaw, but this is not a revision. This is a new Article 12 to be added to the general bylaw. So these aren't revisions, these are implementations of a new general bylaw. There is no Article 12 right now. This would become the new Article 12 as part of the general bylaw. So if that could be
So
updated in the
the,
warrant.
at the heading on this, it says revised 325.
Right. It's just a revised edition of this general bylaw. That's,
That didn't exist.
right. So this is a new bylaw for the general
This is
bylaw.
like the Abbott and Costello who's on first.
No.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
go
this
ahead,
is-
Lisa.
What should it be?
What's the labeling?
then?
It should be Article 16,
Yep,
stormwater bylaw, not revised.
it?
Yes.
okay.
To approve,
Article 16?
yep.
Stormwater bylaw.
We'll see if the town will vote to approve the stormwater bylaw as printed in the warrant.
Okay.
Anyway, so Nick Christopher, our MS4 stormwater consultant, is on the line. I believe he's, some of the questions and comments received recently have been added to the bylaw. One of them was under enforcement. I'm sorry, under exemptions, sorry. And we updated item 1, or section 6, letter B, item 1. We updated that per the request of the chairman. And it's been vetted by town council, and that's the language that they proposed.
So the question that I had asked them, so everybody knows sitting here, the exemption was for agricultural on the stormwater. So given the current project up on Oak Street, it's a dual use on the solar project. It's residential, agricultural and the solar. And that's done to assist in keeping it into the 61A classification. So it's leased land, it wasn't purchased by the solar company. So I wanted to make sure that a project such as that, where we've had so many recent issues with it, that it wasn't exempt from a stormwater bylaw, because that would be kind of catastrophic to everything that's going on up there, to the neighboring properties.
You had also asked us to try to include some of the smaller properties as part of this bylaw, but Nick Christopher, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so for those that may not have been here last time, so the MS4 permit requires regulation of properties that disturb 1 acre or more. And there was some discussion a couple weeks ago about maybe trying to broaden that threshold to be lower. So in other words, to pull in potentially more properties. And I think the intent was that in the more heavily developed kind of downtown areas where there are some issues like off-site flooding and flooding of neighbors, to try and address some of those projects. And I kind of went back and forth on it, and I think for right now, I would recommend we try and just get the MS4 bylaw in place. Not having the bylaw in place, we are currently not in compliance with EPA's permit. So I'd like to get the town into compliance, and we can certainly address those projects at a later date. But what I'm thinking is that right now there's 17 pages, I think, of regulations that go along with these 1 acre threshold disturbance in order to satisfy the EPA requirements. So I don't really want to tie in those two thresholds together with one set of regulations and one set of bylaws. I'd rather keep the big 1 acre plus EPA mandated projects as one type of application, and then the town can kind of do whatever they want. They can kind of make as many requirements or as few requirements as they want for those smaller projects. And I think it'll just be a little bit cleaner, because the smaller projects just won't, we don't necessarily need to make them do quite the same things as what EPA is doing. And, you won't turn your 17 pages of regulations into 40 pages of regulations that people have to sort through. So in any case, to make a long story short, I would recommend that we get the EPA 1 acre bylaw and then the accompanying regulations in place now as soon as we can. And then we look at tackling those smaller projects later.
So it would just be an amendment to the stormwater bylaw to grab those smaller ones? Because, and let me just finish real quick. So you understand why I even asked the question. I asked it to Matt Benoit prior to these meetings, obviously, when a discussion first came up about stormwater. The village residential is currently 20,000 square feet. We have a neighborhood that's on the west side of town that's averages probably 10,000 square foot lots. And those are more problematic than a 1 acre lot because they're so close together. They're usually double. They were originally 5,000 square foot lots, 50 by 100. People have bought in 2 or 3 of them, and they're putting very large houses. Sometimes they're maximizing it. It may be a future discussion to talk about percentage of lot coverage. That might be a better way to address it than trying to chase stormwater around. But to grab those properties, what do you do? You recommend that we go back to town meeting for an amendment or an addition to it, or how do you address that?
What we probably end up doing is adding in, is amending the bylaw and saying that, properties that are, So then it gets a little bit more tricky because, for instance, do you only want to do it within that district? And how do you pull those in, you know? I mean, do we have to do like a zoning overlay district in order to pull those properties in? That overlay district may need to be amended potentially. Or do you want to regulate, you know, every property that's whatever, you know, more than 5,000 square feet, more than 20,000 square feet town-wide? So I think we just need to do a little bit more thinking about it. It could be cleaner to just to amend the bylaw that we're working on now, or depending on if there's like an overlay district that we need to do, it might be actually easier to just have something that goes that route. And you say, all right, well, if you're in this overlay district, you need to do the following things. And you know, like you said, I mean, you can go more than just stormwater. You can pursue setbacks. You can pursue, you know, parking spaces. You can say you can't discharge any stormwater off-site and it needs to be infiltrated on your property, or something of those lines. Like I said, I think we should separate them. I'd keep them separate.
No, that's fine. I just want to know how we're going to address it moving forward, that's all. I don't have a problem separating it at all.
Sure, yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions for Nick or Matt on this?
Brandon, Mike.
Brandon? He either saying peace to everybody or he's trying to get our attention.
My question has to do with the relationship of this proposed Article 12 with the existing Article 11, which is the municipal storm drain system bylaw. You know, and it talks about MS4, you know, but mostly the objective of Article 11 is to prevent pollutants from entering the town's municipal separate storm sewer system, and talks a lot about illicit connections and unauthorized discharges to municipal storm drains and whatnot. But there's also language in here, you know, regarding construction general permits and stormwater pollution prevention plans, and there's a little bit of overlap I see between the two articles, and I'm wondering how this would all work together, because Article 11 is under the purview of the Conservation Commission. As currently written, Article 12 would be also under the purview of the Conservation Commission, which means that I would be a point man on it. So I'd like to know what I'm getting myself into.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the EPA, the new permit, the not so new permit at this point, but we'll go with the new permit, requires effectively 3 different regulatory mechanisms. And the first one is the illicit discharge one, which is essentially Article 11 under the town's general bylaws. And the intent of that bylaw is basically to say the only thing that can be in your stormwater system is stormwater. And if there are non-stormwater related things within the stormwater system, then it gives the town the right to go after who is causing that pollution to the stormwater system. And that pollution could be things like sediment from a construction site. It can be illicit discharges from a failed sewer system or failed septic system, et cetera, et cetera. So that's that bylaw, and I'm not 100% familiar with with that illicit discharge bylaw the way it stands, you know, this second within Douglas, but that is certainly, sorry, I'm flipping through it right now.
Yeah.
That is certainly the intent of this bylaw, and in looking at what the town has on the books, Article 11 very closely follows the illicit discharge requirements as required by the MS4. So that's essentially your first out of the 3 regulatory mechanisms that are required. The other two regulatory mechanisms address construction sites and post-construction sites. And most communities combine the 2 of them, which is exactly what we're trying to do for Article 12. And it basically says that, during construction, you need to have erosion and sediment controls in place, which is why the bylaw, or more so the regulations that will be adopted with the bylaw for Article 12, will require an erosion and sediment control manual to be prepared for the site, and there's long-term operation and maintenance, et cetera.
Very fair.
Great, awesome. And then the second piece, the post-construction piece, is how basically developers need to show that they're removing things like nitrogen, phosphorus, total suspended solids from a completed development project by constructing structural stormwater BMPs.
Right, following your long-term operation and maintenance plan, things like that.
Yep, exactly.
Pollution prevention plan. Yep, okay.
Yep.
All
Does that
right,
make sense?
I get it, yeah, I get it. And sounds good, and I guess that quick comment on the proposed Article 12. Was reading through it, and once again, after learning about the fines, and this one has a fine of, it reads up to $300 a day. That should be changed to a number certain, based on what we just learned on the amendments to Article 8.
Are we looking at Section 11, civil and criminal penalties? So it reads, a fine of not more than $300 per day.
Right, that needs to be changed to 300 or whatever number you decide, based on Jay Tallerman's comments.
Okay. To be revised to just read a fine of $300 per day.
This is our warrant, that's our article, that we want to make a motion to amend that.
Let's see if that's the only changes.
Mr. Chairman, would it do any good to have the language in Article 12, at least for the enforcement part of it, mimic what we have in Article 8, seeing as they'll both be overseen by the Conservation Commission? I mean, they're pretty much saying the same thing, but just in a different way. But I think it's always better to have similar, mimicking language if you're going to do that. It's a thought.
What's your opinion on that, Matt?
I understand the rationale behind it, but which one do we change?
Keep in mind that we're intending to close the warrant tonight, so.
Right.
Yeah, well, like I said, they say the same thing, just in different ways, so if it's, you want to make this a little more expeditious, I would just leave it as is then.
Okay. I'll go with that. So the only amendment to it was the $300 a day fixed amount, not up to, correct?
Right, it reads not more than, so I'd cross off not more than, and it would read by a fine of $300 per day.
Okay. So we're voting after, Tim, to answer your question, we're reviewing and closing our annual and special town meeting warrants. Should we consider just putting a note here as amended next to this, or should we be voting on this separately? What's your thought on that?
Well, I'm not to interrupt, but as I asked Lisa on hers, they said this would be strike out on the floor.
What, on the floor at town meeting?
Yeah.
No, we just clean it up now. The only way you want to do is strike it out on the floor
Oh,
or
'cause there's
something,
a
is
citizen
if there was like a citizen's petition that's
Yep.
locked into the language.
Yep.
Right now, we can amend it before we
Okay.
close the warrant.
Yep.
Is that correct, Matt?
Yes.
Yes, okay,
And the less we have to do on the floor, the better.
correct.
We also had the change to the language of the article and how that was read. Article 16, stormwater bylaw, see if the town will vote to approve the stormwater bylaw as printed in the warrant, take any other action relative thereto. This is not a revision. It's a new bylaw.
So why don't we take a vote to accept the suggested amendments to this article? Article 16, it's not 12, it's 16?
Right.
The recommended amendments to Article 16 Stormwater Management Bylaw. We'll just accept the amendments, and then we can vote to put them all the warrant. I need a motion on that.
I'll motion to accept the amendments.
On Article 16 Stormwater Management Bylaw.
Yeah, on the Article 16 Stormwater Management Bylaw.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Motion's made and second. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So all we do is we accepted the amendments, and we'll vote to do our warrant articles. Mr. Manerick snuck out of the room again. So he has all three of those, right? The North Street project, the town-owned property in Uxbridge, and the easement on 70, who has the easement on 75?
I think
I do.
Matt
Matt
has
has
that also.
Yep.
Oh, Matt, you have that, all right.
Yes.
Jump on that one, Matt, please.
Sure.
H.
So,
Thank you, I'm gonna jump off. Have a good-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Good night.
Thanks.
so this draft easement is for a stormwater solution that's been kind of a thorn in the side of the town for a little while. It's a low point in the road, and the stormwater seems to drain onto this private property. So what they've done is they proposed an easement for stormwater access and maintenance of the pipe that's going to go under the ground to be installed by Stantec. I believe we have a signed contract for that currently. So this easement would give the town the ability to access and maintain the stormwater pipe that's going underground on that property.
Anybody have any questions for Matt on this? Mr. Administrator, this is a pretty standard easement form.
Yeah, it was reviewed by council. It is a standard approach that we have for those properties that feel that they're being put upon by the town's runoff. We asked them for an easement so that we could manage the stormwater on their property. Many say no, but this one is saying yes. It's a door we should walk through because whether it's this owner or future owners, it is kind of troublesome. The amount of water that comes off Northwest can be significant.
What is this project supposed to kick off?
I think this is going to be part of this year's paving project.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the one that we're talking about with the pool and the bushes and all that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Anybody have any questions for Matt on this? Either Matt? No? Thanks, bud.
Okay, thank you.
Before Mr. Manerick runs out of the room again, we're going to capture him and bring him back to the table.
You ask for stuff and then you're not here.
So,
Did my presentation at FinCom, so I can't be in two places at once.
hi, Bob. So F, North Street project additional match.
Stantec approached us, and they need an additional $67,000 for design and engineering work for the Upper North Street project. We did a balloon study, and we did a second outreach meeting. From that second outreach meeting, residents, we had some site walks, extra walls were put in place, which is additional design and engineering work. Bob Sullivan and I went over the water drawings. They're running a 12-inch water line up the entire 5,500-foot length. We added valves. They had a section of 700 feet with no valves. We try to isolate sections for redundancy. So that required extra design work. Pond Street is a perfect example of where they had a 12 by 12, a 12 by 8T to match up to the 8-inch line on Pond Street. Well, if the Caswell Court subdivision goes into play, that will be upgraded to a 12. So it made sense to put in a 12 by 12 tee with a 20-foot stick, get it off-road, so we're not ripping up a brand-new road to put in a 12-inch line. It'll already be stubbed off as a 12 with the reducer in Pond Street. Well, that occurred on 4 streets. Anytime you change the design, you've got to do hydraulic analysis to make sure that the hydraulics work. All this added together comes up to about $67,000 to finish the design of the project. And this is in addition to the $529,300 site readiness grant, which we did finish. That has been closed. The $100,000 from a town meeting, I believe in spring of, or fall of 2022, and then the $120,700 opera funds, which this board did approve a while ago. And that's what we're into right now, but that will not finish the project. So the $750,000 design is into the low 800s right now. And this will finish it, get it ready for bid-ready documents. Presently working on the MassWorks grant. So when the MassWorks grant is due in June, they will review it. Come October, we need bid-ready documents. So this is kind of critical money to finish up the design and engineering process for Upper North Street.
Anybody have any questions for Bob?
Yeah, very well explained.
Don't leave yet. Let's see, town-owned property in Uxbridge, Bob.
Town-owned property in Uxbridge, do you have the maps in front of you?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we have.
Okay,
Yep.
there's 2 slivers of land located adjacent to the Pine property, but directly across from the Shell station. This is actually the tail end of the property that we took in a tax taking in 2012 from the mill, which now includes the mill parking lot, Gilboa Pond. It's the same parcel that the bridge is built on, which we set up for auction. That same process might be in play for these 2 pieces for the Pine project at a later date. So this is just preparation right now to get the town to vote to have this board dispose of it if necessary. And we did the same process for the bridge work. We deemed that parcel surplus, I believe.
Well, we don't, the select board does.
Right.
You guys decide that it no longer serves a municipal purpose, and then authorize the town administrator to liquidate it under 30B, Section 16.
Yep.
But this is to get it into your hands, correct?
What's that?
This parcel?
Town meeting needs to give us.
To give us the ability to go to
Right.
those steps, yes. Yep.
So this is just the first step in the process, and there might not be a second step, but there might be. And if it is, it'll be quick.
We'll hold you to that. It is on camera. Any
I'm not
questions
the
for
civil
Bob?
engineer for the Pine project.
No, I'm still in the quick word, so. Any questions for Bob? No? You understand what that is? Over in Lucky Dam?
Yeah, I know where it is.
You all set, Russ?
Yep.
See if anything else for Bob before he leaves.
I think that,
Oh. So it says possible votes on here. You just have that on there as a running thing? Okay. I don't think we have anything else for Bob.
not that I know of. Unless I'm in the 48-hour
Yep.
category.
Before we jump on to number 6, I'd like to just go back to that BBT thing, Matt, so you gave us like a Speedy Gonzalez version. I didn't digest any of it.
So when Dr. Fitzpatrick came to the town, he, early in the process, so gosh, January, February timeframe,
Thanks, Bob.
he asked for 2 articles in addition to his budget article. He asked for the creation of a stabilization account, and he asked for authority to go out and borrow $10 million for a roof project, which is actually much more complicated than a roof project. He wants to replace his rooftop units at the same time as he replaces his roof. And a number of towns were concerned that we were not being given sufficient time to pursue a debt exclusion, which requires a vote on the ballot within a certain period of time after the spending is requested and approved. So the only place to put it would be to rush it or have a special election at some ungodly time in the middle of the summertime. And so, a lot of folks react negatively to being put in that position because we don't want debt in the operating budget. It chokes out spending, and the budget becomes much less flexible when you have a mandatory debt obligation that you have to budget for. When it's an excluded, the interest rate can go up or down, or the interest payment will go up or down, the principal payment will go up or down, depending on the terms of the bond, and it doesn't change the way we calculate the operating budget at all, if that makes sense. But we also felt like there's a substantial amount of controversy around BVT's overall spending, recruitment approach, their impact on our operating budget, and it would be best to have the taxpayers vote it themselves, rather than have a small sample at town meeting make that decision for them. So there was that lack of flexibility, but there was also the feedback from two towns in particular, Upton and Northbridge. The Mendon Upton School District is going out for a roof project, as is Northbridge. They're taking the approach where they're going to go to MSBA with their project, get a commitment from MSBA, and then go back to the taxpayers of their town and ask for a specific amount of money that includes the MSBA commitment. Dr. Fitzpatrick was taking a different approach. He felt that he needed to go into the MSBA process with a commitment from the towns to borrow the money already in hand, and then use that to be persuasive with MSBA and say, see, I've got my commitment, you now give me my money. The problem we had was, well, what's he asking for? Is he asking for 10 million, or is he asking for 10 million minus the MSBA grant, right? And so if he ended up with an overage, that made sense that he had the stabilization account to put it in, and then how does it come out? Right now, it turns out it would need town approval, the catchment area towns to put in an approval in. But it just becomes a very convoluted financial transaction that begins to look like we're building an additional stabilization account on top of his excess and deficiency, which is basically his free cash. So it just didn't seem to be real transparent, and there were a number of things that needed to be researched. So in his email, he says, I'm just going to pull the stabilization account warrant article completely because we can't answer all the questions that have been raised. And on the 10 million, he is willing to ask for the 10 million contingent upon MSBA approval of his project. So that means we're not going to borrow unless MSBA makes a commitment. That's a really big change from what he originally asked for.
Would that be up to 10 million, or it would just be 10 million? Because in the scenario you said about the MSBA match, there could potentially be less than the 10, is the 10 million the gross number for the project, or is that the contribution he's thinking in excess of MSBA?
So it's definitely a $10 million specific, right?
That's right.
I'm just, I don't understand what the 10 million's for. If it's gross amount of the project. Or it's, or the town's contributions, the communities.
So, I hate explaining his
No,
stuff because
no.
it is a little bit convoluted.
Oh, okay.
The intent was to prevent him from borrowing 10 million if he didn't need to have 10 million
Right.
to do his $10 million project.
Right.
If he got subsidized by MSBA.
Right.
I'm still looking at a suggested motion to pay the costs of roof reconstruction, replacement of units, including the payment of all costs incidental or related to. So, not for nothing, but I don't agree with his suggested motion, because it
Well,
doesn't
that's what I'm
accomplish.
saying. It seems like it's a gross amount to me. So I don't see
His-
where,
The language in his, so above that, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
in the paragraph, such debt approval by the town to be contingent upon the district's ability to secure grant approval from the Massachusetts School Building Authority Accelerated Repair Grant Program. That is the language we want in the motion. The town meeting only approves his ability to borrow.
but the motion doesn't capture that.
No. His suggested motion is still open-ended. It's like trying to pick up watermelon seeds.
No, I just don't know. I'm confused as to what the $10 million is for. So is that the entire project? Because it's to approve a $10 million debt authorization, right? But, and then it says contingent upon the district's ability to secure the grant. So is the grant in addition to the $10 million? That's how I'm reading it. You're going to get the $10 million and then the grant's in addition to it.
I think your interpretation is plausible. Right. I don't think that's what he intends, but I think what you're saying is plausible.
That's how I'm reading it,
Right.
so.
So, he's his own worst enemy. All I'm going to say is this. I have never seen an itemized project list with an item and a cost that adds up to 10 million. That has not been shared with us in multiple FinCom meetings or in this documentation. It's not here, right? So my understanding from his presentations, because we all shared videos of the things he said in different places to try to match what he says,
Yeah.
which isn't easy. The roof is actually nowhere near 10 million. It's the HVAC units. He's got quite a few of them on his rooftop, and he wants to replace them all. And that's where the expense is. If you went by dollars, he did say at one point, and I think it may have been either Millbury or Northbridge, where he said the lion's share of the project is HVAC. It's to replace those rooftop units. Right? That's all I can tell you. That's all I know. Like I say, I'm not really, from my perspective, when we're looking at roof costs and what we're doing here, even at the municipal center, if you were to add up what we would have spent if we had put the HVAC
Yeah.
in, on a per square foot basis, it might have been very similar. He's got a big building and a big roof here, so I don't really want to begrudge a school building a roof when they know they have leaks and they know they have really old equipment. It's just that he's not doing a good job here of transparently explaining exactly how he's going to match dollars of
I don't know what the
revenue.
value of the project is.
Right.
Right.
He says,
That-
Ask me at a number, or is this been bidded out?
round numbers are always a little bit suspect. He would have been better off saying
Yeah.
$9,998,762.57 than 10 million. It's easier for the taxpayer to understand, I get it, but.
I'd like to ask the finance director if my thought process is correct.
She's even more reluctant.
Well, I have
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm trying to identify what,
I can't get into his head either. The only thing that I see missing from the warrant language itself is that the town wanted to be a debt exclusion. I don't see that language in here. It's in the motion, but the motion isn't presented to town meeting. What's presented and what's mailed in the FinCom flyer is the warrant language.
So I know in our previous school borrowings, I know the full project cost was included, and then there was some language that it would be reduced by the amount they received in the grant. We can send this to bond council and have them review the language for your next meeting, which is the 2nd, and try to get our bond council to, I think what's in the warrant article is what Unibank provided us as our financial advisors, but we can see if we can get language that's similar to what the other communities are doing. But again, my concern is if we want to go forward as a debt exclusion, I don't see that language in here.
It's done.
So we can put this onto the warrant and then still clarify our language?
Well, we'd have to have it for your next meeting,
Yep. What, Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday.
I'm not trying to rush it, but it's only like
That's the ballot.
7 days
So
away.
just procedurally, so does that mean we're going to close the warrant tonight or not?
Do we have to close the warrant tonight?
No, I don't think so.
Well, you two deal with the printers and all this other stuff, so don't be scared. Tell us if we have to close it, we have to close it. If we can wait, we can wait. That's, I'm just trying to get to that answer.
Do you have any wiggle?
They can, it's not finalized, so you close it before the finance committee has a public hearing. Their public hearing's not till April 9th.
Correct.
Oh, so we have until the 2nd.
We can wait.
It'll give you a little bit of time to clean it up and actually give Paul and Courtney a chance to go home, because I think they're making sure that we go through the whole thing before they leave.
I guess my question back to the board would be, is it, do you want a debt exclusion? Because that's going to affect the language. And it also has to be in a town meeting.
Speaking for myself, I would want a recommendation from the two people that would give us that recommendation, right? I don't think it's,
So I can be 100% unequivocal about this. The only way this should go through is as a debt exclusion,
yep, yep,
in my opinion.
right,
If you're asking, that's it.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
10 million, yeah.
yep. So we got to clean up that language. I guess the quick answer is we don't close the warrant tonight. We wait until Tuesday and get that language cleared up, because if we close it, then can you still clean it up?
So is that going to be a vote of the board tonight? So I can get the language, and then we'd have to notify the town clerk, because that would have to go on the annual town election and see if we're within the time frame.
What's your recommendation?
Again, I would go forward with a debt exclusion. And I would contact the town clerk tomorrow
And close our warrant on,
and close the
Tuesday.
warrant on Tuesday.
okay. Does anybody care to,
Are there any municipalities within the district that have just said this is happening way too fast? We're not going to take this up at our annual town meeting?
There's a couple of towns that have been outspoken in their criticism of this. Some of it has occurred because they had already closed their warrant and were being forced to reopen their warrant to accommodate this change. So uncharacteristically, Dr. Fitzpatrick did not plan this out and did not take into consideration all the time constraints on municipalities. So I can't discern for you whether the upset in the town of Hopedale over their general budget for BVT is spilling over to opposition to this, or whether opposition to this is just on top of their, I can't tell you. I think he's lost a step here, because here we are in March 26, talking about something, the warrant's got to be closed in the first week of April. And I don't even know, well, the ballots haven't been printed yet, but the select board has already posted the election warrant, if I'm not mistaken. Or you at least approved it.
I don't know the answer to that.
All right, so
I don't think we... Have we?
The election
We're
warrant?
grinding to a halt, so maybe.
No, but
we'll
the
just come
election
back.
warrant, what, for the town election? No, today was the deadline in order to hand in your papers. The caucus has to be done by April 6th. That's the last chance for
The
a caucus.
contents
so-
of the ballot have not been decided,
Right, yeah.
but you may have posted the date of the election.
Well, the date, yeah. Yeah, we have the dates, we just, the content,
we have
because you
time.
don't know what it is yet, so.
Put this on the spring ballot, but there won't be a lot of time to discuss it with the public, right?
And
You're going to have 3 weeks to tell the public what they're voting on a debt exclusion.
if we find this answer out and we're not comfortable with the amended language that we'll agree to tonight, we can always pass over that town meeting if needed. So with that, I would make a motion that we, why'd I start this? All my papers are all messed up. Which one are we doing? We're doing the BVT roof reconstruction and replacement. That we include language to make certain that this vehicle is a debt exclusion funding mechanism to be approved at our next meeting.
Second, I'll see.
Motion's made and second. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all in favor? Aye. Thanks for going back to that, but I think that was an important step to go back to that. It wasn't clear to me as to what we were talking about. I didn't want to just pass over it without revisiting it. So we're going to pass over number 6, which is review and close annual town meeting and special town meeting, or do we want to review it?
Well, you want to close the special?
Want to close the special? We can.
I'm all set with the special.
All right, I'll make a motion that we close the special town meeting.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second? Huh?
I had to finish this thought. Warren.
Warren.
Oh, I didn't know. You were
Tell the
done.
proper said turn page. I'm not allowed to say
You were
that.
done.
Second that.
You done with your thought? You, Ross?
I think he is. yeah.
Okay.
That's what
No,
I'm
you.
seconding. Oh, yeah, I seconded that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Town meeting discussion with the moderator. I don't see him. So I had inquired with Lisa Freeman to look through all the warrant articles that we have, so we have somebody that's actually going to speak on them when we get to that point, so we're not all looking like deers in the headlights, like we typically do. I think she's acquired all the participants in those items. So when I don't know when the town moderator is going to come to us. He said he was unavailable in the whole
He said he
month.
was attending tonight in my last meeting.
Yeah. So he didn't make it, so what happens? What's the process with that? We just wing it and go to town meeting and wait and see how it's going to happen?
Well, his review oftentimes is a citizen's look at what we are creating from a warrant perspective. Matt basically covers everything. We don't necessarily need him here in order to go through that exercise. That's my understanding of his role anyway.
Right, and that and how he actually discusses how he's going to go through the meeting, whether he's going to do his expedited version, or is he going to go through each one? You're going to have a presenter and all that stuff, so that's normally part of the process. He'll probably stay on the same focus that he has been over the last couple of years, and that's why I asked to make sure we had people that are going to speak on the articles, so then we can properly go through it if need be.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to stick my neck out here a little bit, probably shouldn't, but I will. Because nature abhors a vacuum, right? And town meeting is a very important part of local governance in Massachusetts. And while there is time to plan the cadence of the meeting, because it is 6 weeks away, the longer we let it go unaddressed, the more problematic it becomes. I think what we learned from the last meeting in November is that there needs to be a specific person responsible for each article as the go-to, so that the moderator can get the business of the town onto the floor and taken care of. So, we passed over a couple of things in November.
Well, that was
Solar bylaw being
specifically what
specific.
motivated me to find out who's going to speak on them, so.
And so that assignment needs to occur so that there is no doubt as to who owns what. The other thing that I would, if the moderator were here, I'd say the same thing. In the past, we were looking to expedite meetings because we were in a pandemic condition. We were outside. Even if it was a nice day, it was, the wind would pick up, papers would fly over the place, couldn't hear each other speak. There was a need to expedite the meeting, get the business of the town done so that we could continue to operate the government. That just isn't true anymore when we're back inside, pandemic's been lifted. The items on this warrant this year are really important to the future of the town. The capital budget, the stormwater regulations, this BVT issue, there are quite a few things that will be on the floor that night that deserve the opportunity to be discussed at some length if town meeting members decide they want to. So consolidating things and just trying to march through the meeting in an hour is not necessarily the highest and best goal for this town meeting. I'm just thinking about union negotiations, the impact those union negotiations had on the budget going forward, the drawdown of free cash. As I said in FinCom a few minutes ago, this is a more significant drawdown of free cash than we would typically do for a town the size of Douglas with Douglas's financial condition. But it makes sense in the context of where we are, because we can foresee additions to free cash and reserves in the next 2 or 3 years that will more than make up for what is being drawn down. And what we're drawing down for are things that need to be addressed.
They've been ignored for years.
They've been ignored for years, and they're just been festering there and need to be dealt with. And so I think that in this context, I'm a little disappointed. I wish we could go back to having the moderator and the clerk here at the same meeting to discuss these issues in the event that either one of them had to preside over the meeting. The clerk has been out, so that's fair. So maybe we wait. But at the same time, for the first 4 or 5 years that I was here, we would go through and assign every single article to a member of the select board. There would be the motion would be crafted so that it was copacetic with Gene's needs as a finance director, making sure we've laid out a path for how the money's going to be spent, the source of funding, et cetera. And then there was some thought put into what the talking points were, even if they were just bullet points. Why is this here? Nobody should expect anyone to remember all the contents of 20-some odd articles at town meeting. It's too much. So you need those bullet points there to remind you. And by getting away from that, I think we got to that point where we didn't know who had the solar bylaw. And, I was in a hotel room in California, raising my hand frantically on Zoom or whatever the heck it was I was on, and didn't get through.
Right.
Because I could have spoken to it. So
Suggestion to the board and you and Lisa as well. Lisa reached out to Keith, and he wasn't available on the 2nd and the 16th. Should we extend an open invitation to him to see if he can meet with us sometime in the month of April, and we try to accommodate that need so we can get to this point. It's an important discussion that we should have, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any restrictions, Tim, because I know you travel out of state frequently. And I don't know what your restrictions are, so.
Depends on where it is. When, are you saying alternate of Tuesday and Tuesday?
I think additional.
Additional. We keep our regular meeting, but we would just have a special meeting just to meet with Keith so we could go over how the town meeting's going to run. So that is not a long drawn-out thing. We spend a half an hour with them, we probably can get through most of it.
I am in Washington on the 16th, which is our meeting day. So if you want to move that to the 23rd,
We could potentially move it to the 23rd. What I would like to do is give Lisa the freedom to reach out to Keith and see if what day he is actually available in the month of April, and then get back to us so we can try to work around that. It's just as the town administrator just pointed out, it's a very important discussion that we should have. So if he's gone for the entire month of April, I guess it doesn't work, but maybe those 2 dates were in conflict for him.
I will reach out to him.
Yeah, and if we can move the 16th, we should consider that, considering that Tim's not available on the 16th. So if we have a light agenda, it doesn't make much difference, but if it's something of importance, I would rather accommodate his schedule. If that's okay with everybody.
Just not the 9th.
It's not the 9th, she says.
Not the 9th. It's FinCom has their public hearing on the 9th, and we're requesting all the departments.
What about a Thursday? That's payroll day. Okay, so I think we got through that. Meeting minutes, Lisa was very busy. She kept getting interrupted. She didn't get them for us. We're going to skip over 9 and 10. Anybody have anything that's not anticipated? What?
Just one thing on 10.
Oh, good.
Tomorrow evening, the staff, the town hall has prepared a potluck for our volunteers. So our board and commission members are invited to come by, and we'll give you a nice meal and appreciation for all the service to the town. This is something that we started doing back in 2017, and we lost it with COVID, and rescheduled it this year to not coincide with the holidays, because typically that's what we did. We did it in December. Because it's just too busy a time. So what did we do? We put it a couple weeks before town meeting. So that was a great improvement, not. But the theme is Italian, so quite a few people have stepped up to make their specialties, and like I say, volunteers are welcome. And hopefully, if you have a chance to stop by at 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Yes.
In the gym. To see the folks that you appoint and that do the work of the town. That's all I had for that.
Thanks.
I'm going to postpone. I did ask the chair before the meeting to go over goals in my report.
Yeah.
In 1 week, since you have a meeting in 1 week.
Yeah.
Just so I could
Right.
start cooking.
Yeah.
I'm going to be up. Poor planning.
So his discussion on number 10 was just a lead on to that, where he wanted to jump off the other thing. So anything in 48 hours in advance that's not reasonably anticipated? Seeing as none. So we're down to number 12. We're going to do both of them, Matt?
Yeah, that's going to be real brief, I think. I'm going to add an item C,
Yeah.
because it kind of fits into 11. The town was served with a copy of a lawsuit today. I just want to go over with the board what it is, so that you're not reading about it or hearing about it for the first time somewhere else.
So just put that under litigation?
Yes.
Anybody want to take a stab at the infamous Tim thing, or?
go ahead.
I'll try.
Go for
Do
it.
it.
So, I will make a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of collective bargaining for the firefighters union, police union, and police chief. Also, interest in real property, 331 Main Street.
Litigation.
in litigation, what Matt just mentioned, and then to re-enter into regular,
Nope.
It works.
Oh, you
Yeah.
could, yeah.
into regular session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Nailed it, bro.
So you would re-enter into it? That's your motion? You do it that way?
No, but
Okay.
that's the beauty of
No, I know that. No?
emotions off the cuff. You never
Yeah.
know what you're gonna get. I'll second.
Right.
Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all in favor?
Aye.
That's it.